Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the number one college podcast in the world right now, Barry and Vilv. My name is Barry.
This is Vilv, and guys, we're into episode 12 today. We're going to be talking about something very interesting. We have someone very special here on the podcast with us today. We're going to be talking about his journey to Stanford and how he managed to sort of maneuver through the financial aid system and get a full ride to Stanford, one of the best schools in the country, one of the best schools in the world. And we're going to be talking about his journey. And today, before we get into it, though, Barry, do you want to get into last week and why we have been posting for a while now?
Man, sure, man. Wait, what do you mean last week or 2 weeks ago, man?
2 weeks.
No, man. No, I'm just playing around, man. If you all haven't realized, y'all, last week we actually didn't put up a new episode. Vilv and I have been extremely busy this break. But for those of you who recall, our most recent episode was episode 11, and we were speaking about like managing your breaks, and we spoke about some things to do during winter break. It's safe to say that Vilv and I are doing some of those things during winter break. We are spending time with the family. Vilv has traveled back home. We're taking some time to distress, and we advise you all to do that as well because the upcoming semester is right around the corner. But
Yeah.
yeah, Vilv, without further ado, let me introduce this very special guest that we have today.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just gonna cut you in 1 second, sorry, man. If
oh, sure,
nobody can tell, I don't know. People can tell, like it's daytime where I am. And I don't know if we can show this, but like it's pretty dark where Abu Bakr is, so it's like 12 hours different. So it's kind of
yeah,
crazy,
man,
but yeah, we're kind
it's nighttime where I'm at right now, man.
of we're trying to do it for you guys, man. Oh,
Hey man, we gotta do it for the fans, man. We gotta do it for the fans,
of
man.
course, yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir. But no, man. Like without further ado, guys, I want to introduce my you know, my cousin, man, my best friend, man, my ride or die, man, my longtime friend, Alaji Berry. This has been a guy that I've known for quite some time now, and we became really, really, really close over the years. And as Bill mentioned, he is a student here at Stanford, and we're so happy to have him on today.
What's
Alaji.
what's up, everyone? Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast, and I cannot wait for the conversation.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you, man. Hey, man, the pleasure is ours, man. Thank you for joining us today, Alaji.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you already introduced how you know Alaji. I mean, I guess I'll just hop in. I kind of got introduced to Alaji through Barry as well. I think it was like some Juma. We kind of randomly met, and we were like, "This is one of my cousins," and I was like, "Oh man, you call everybody your cousin. So is this actually a cousin, or like is this some other random black guy?" You're like, "Oh, this is my cousin as
Oh,
well."
come
I was
on.
like. I was like, so it's like it was really cool meeting Alaji because his story is so unique, but he's a really cool guy in person as well. So let's get into it. Alaji, so can you tell the viewers watching today, what's your story? How did you end up in Stanford?
Of course, of course. I come from a very unique background in that, like, I am Guinean American. So I was originally born here in the States, but I'm originally from Guinea Conakry. So my parents immigrated to America in, I want to say, sometimes in the 1990s. And growing up in New York, and even just like in general, growing up in different parts of the world, I always knew that I wanted to just kind of um, do something with my life, primarily because I've seen a lot of like my past relatives and just people from Guinea with not being granted that much opportunities and unfortunately living in horrible circumstances. And I told myself I was blessed to get the opportunity to have an education in America. And so I wanted to just make the best use of that. And so I grinded hard in school, in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, worked very hard with the hopes of one day just attending a decent school. Um, wasn't sure I was going to end up at Stanford, but alhamdulillah, it happened. And I've been here for the past 4 years. I'm currently a senior and I'm studying computer science. And I'm about to graduate in about 5, 6 months or so.
Yeah, I just want to
MashaAllah.
step in. I just want to step in real quick, Bill, man. The humbleness, man. Decent school, just a decent school, you know.
This is cool, man.
Just nothing too major, man. Nah, but for sure, like allegedly, that story is very inspiring, man. You know, that's actually something that I look up to, and actually something that I want to do one day as well. You've mentioned about your background and your family, and I actually relate to that as well. So hopefully one day I can reach your level, man.
Oh,
Inshallah.
you already like I reach up.
Nah, chill out, man. Nah, but for sure, man. So Elijah, okay. So you spoke to us about what you call it, like your journey, how you've always wanted to, like be like a great individual and like attend a decent school. But kind of like talk to us, what was that journey like as a senior in high school applying for colleges? Because if I'm not mistaken, this was what back in 2019, right?
I started applications in 2018. I graduated in 2019.
Oh yeah, exactly,
So I
Yes.
was like 2018.
Yeah. So what was that like? Because you just mentioned like as a first generation a student as well. So did you get like support from your family or like did you find the application is difficult? How was that experience?
Yeah, it was definitely a stressful process, I'm not gonna lie. And a lot
Mm,
of that stress I put on myself, being a big procrastinator and all. But basically, I come from a fly background, so none of my parents had attended college. So navigating just the whole college application process was like very new to me. And I went to a high school where there wasn't as much resources, and not many students even thought of the chance of going out of state, let alone to a school such as Stanford. And so while my counselor helped me to the best that she possibly can, I would say for the most part, it was just me researching and doing a lot of it on my own.
mm,
And with the application process, I kind of went at it the wrong way, I would say, quite honestly, because I feel like generally what they tell you is to just apply to a few schools, identify the schools that are like the best match for you and whatnot. Whereas, like, for me, I feel like there are times where like I would switch what I think my major would be. And so I just applied to a lot of different school based off of like different potential majors that I was interested in pursuing.
mm.
So I think I applied to over 30 schools, like maybe,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it was some big number. I know that I was just like,
Oh wow. Shoot.
um,
Yeah.
but
Shoot,
to
I
be
think I
Yeah,
was
fair,
that
about
was applying to a lot of schools, man.
no, but to be fair though, like the Common App, like honestly, like it's a great platform where like you submit one application and it just sends your application to a variety of schools.
Mm,
True.
And the same thing, I also applied to a lot of like the University California school system. So I just submitted one application and it just sent it to all of the UC schools. So that was very convenient.
mm.
But going back to like what I was saying earlier, that it was very stressful. I did not start applications until 1 week before they were due. And
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
so I
Oh
think
wow.
I mentioned this to you, Abubakar, like something about it being like a very, very stressful, very anxiety inducing, very
Yeah.
unfortunate time in my life, honestly, because it felt like I worked so hard these past 4 years and to just kind of like do that to myself where like I waited at the very last minute and just basically, at least the way that I interpreted at the time, was not giving my best effort and like, doing great applications and whatnot. Alhamdulillah, it all worked out regardless.
Alhamdulillah.
Um,
No, it definitely worked out, bro. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it's
during
worked
like
out, you know.
winter break, so I was just able to just tell myself, "Hey, Alaji, now is the time to get serious and be focused and get in the zone." And so I just kind of like locked myself in the room and just started drafting different essays, writing different prompts and whatnot. And I started off with the schools that I was most interested in attending because
Mm,
I that way I wouldn't have burned out and then not provide my best effort in the later applications. So I
mhm,
started off with applying to like, Stanford, Harvard, other Ivies, Georgia Tech and whatnot. And then once I felt like I was done giving it my all in my applications and essays, that is when I just started applying to like the other schools that were like, I guess based off of like my stats, I felt like I had a more decent chance of getting into, if that makes sense.
mm. No,
Yeah.
that's very interesting, man. I just want to jump in here real quick and say, so I actually went to the same high school as Elijah here, and I can attest to a lot of the things. We didn't go to a high school that had the most resources, so a lot of the times we did have to figure it out on our own. But I do want to mention what you call it at least you did a better job than me, Elijah. You did yours like a week in advance. I did mine, the day of, 15 minutes before the deadline. So for the viewers tuning in, please take our advice and do not procrastinate your applications because it's gonna add a lot of stress on you. Please start well in advance.
And it's funny though that that
Yeah.
happened because I would assume that after going through that much stress that I would have learned my lesson. But to this day, as a senior, I still procrastinate, unfortunately.
Hey, be like that,
No,
man. Be like that, man.
bro, we're all the same, man. We're all the same. We all like crazy procrastinate, and I'm like, sometimes I thought I was applying to a lot of colleges. Now I'm like
Right.
freaking 30, dude. I thought like I applied to like 15, and I was like, dude, I'm probably the world record at this. And now I'm seeing the difference in levels. You know what I mean?
Hey, man.
But now
Hey, Bill, bro. I was trying to get like him, bro.
we're trying to
Yeah,
get like him, man.
but
Yeah,
looking
go
back, I
ahead.
honestly feel like that wasn't worth it. I could have just applied to like maybe 10, 15 at most and just call it a day. I didn't need to just add that much stress to myself.
No, but you know what? You know what? It's the effort that makes the whole thing at the end of the day, worth it. You look back now and you're like, you know what? I did that because I wanted to achieve a certain goal, even though it's a lot of it, not necessary, but it paid off. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? But I was just gonna ask you a question right here. It's kind of like a segue. Is that you applied to 30 universities? Was Stanford your dream university, or was it like a safe school?
Safe school, safe school.
Not a safe school. Yeah. I would say personally, like going into the whole college application process, I didn't have like a dream school per se, but like the schools that I was like, okay, I would be happy if I attended it. Then yeah, Stanford was among the list. I had like probably three schools that I applied to that I was said that I was like truly like I would be excited if I had gotten the chance to go to it.
Nice, nice. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a crazy story, but I love how you guys like broke it down to like everything, how I applied and how many schools I applied. That really goes to show someone who's actually really aware of the effort they're putting in. And really, I know you said you started a week earlier, but I'm pretty sure you've been preparing for the last how many years you've lived, the 18, 19 years. Because you said, I've worked through high school to get this. I've worked through tough times in New York. You said your backstory, not coming from a very well-educated family and stuff like that. It all counts, dude. At the end of the day. So I just wanted to ask you. So you're studying CS at Stanford, correct?
Yes.
So, Stanford CS, very well known, world class. A lot of very famous people have graduated from that school. What's it basically like studying computer science at Stanford? I'm not just talking about like the academics, but like, what makes it, in your opinion, so different from, let's say, the other schools in the country that are not as well known?
Okay. As you said, like Stanford, like the CS department is very reputable. They have like exceptional alumni that have gone on to do amazing things. And because of that, I feel like, at least in my opinion, in my experience being a CS major at Stanford, there's always a lot of opportunity to network and connect with amazing individuals within the field, a lot of opportunities to do amazing research, cutting edge research, matter of fact. Also, another thing, coming from a fly background, I was not exposed to computer science at Thero, which is the high school that I went to. And so Stanford was the first time, my freshman fall quarter was the first time I had ever taken a computer science course ever. And one thing that I did appreciate was the fact that they had a lot of resources for people that were never exposed to computer science. There was sessions that they hosted. There was different events that was hosted to just kind of like help people transition a first into that whole college environment, but also just kind of giving a easier segue or entryway for people that were never science. So that is one thing that I appreciate, and that is something that I've noticed that it continued even in the past. I'm sorry about that. My little brother's just walked in, but that is one thing that I
So,
have appreciated in the past, and that is something that I've noticed that it has also persisted currently to this day. But one thing that I would say is the fact that computer science is the most popular major at Stanford. And so that could come with its pros and cons, in that like there's a lot of students, so therefore a lot of, especially like the intro level courses, there's going to be many people enrolled, and therefore there's kind of like, I guess, a harder ability for you to just connect with professors and whatnot, unless like you attend their office hours and such. But it being one of the most popular majors, that means the department also gets a decent amount of funding. I feel like the CS department at Stanford actually has the most funding out of any other department at Stanford. And with that being said, that goes into like us being able to have access to more unique opportunities. And one thing, for instance, just recently in November, I went to Afrotech, and that was all funded by the Stanford CS department. Flights were paid for, hotels were paid for, transportation, Uber rides, food, accommodations, all that was paid for. And it was basically an opportunity for us Stanford students to just be able to go to a tech conference and connect with other like-minded individuals, and just to discover new job opportunities and see what is happening in the tech field. So I guess there are positives and there are negatives, but overall I would say that the CS department at Stanford has been good to me.
Wow.
yeah, wow.
Wow. Now that's just so impressive, Bill. But listen, man. Whenever I talk to you, Alaji, and you, Bill, I know Bill. Say you're studying computer engineering. I always look back at my life like, man, maybe I should have switched majors early on, man. Oh my goodness,
Nah,
you guys are getting all paid stuff, man, with the CS department. Man, I don't know what I did to my life, yo. I don't know what I did to my life, man.
nah.
Bro, you
You just
show sanity. There are times where I'm jealous and I would want to be in your position. You don't know
No, no,
how
no,
many.
no, no, no.
yeah,
Don't downgrade your life,
bro.
bro.
No, no,
Don't
I'm being
He be
honest. Like
going
there are
going to bed at
several.
like 10:30. He be going to bed at 10:30 like every day. He's got a fixed schedule. I'm like, bro, what 10:30? I forgot the last time I went to bed at 10:30. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey,
I
hey,
don't
listen.
know how the experience has been for Vilv being a computer engineering major, but for me, CS has been very brutal with all
Nah.
the coding assignments, bugs, all-nighters, studying for exams, coding interviews. All that has been very stressful.
Hey, listen, man. It's the same thing for him, bro. I be going to his room. It's like midnight. I'm like, bro, Bill, go to sleep. Finish it later. He's like, nah, I gotta finish it. But the thing I do say, the pros outweigh the cons, man. The pros outweigh the cons. Because listen, man, you guys when you graduate, man, you guys are set, guaranteed. People like me, on the other hand, we gotta scout around and look for opportunities. While you guys did the right thing, man. Congratulations to you both. Great job.
I appreciate that, man, but with this recession, I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, hey, Bill,
bro, it's
listen,
tough
man.
out here,
And we
man.
spoke about that
Bro,
the other day. Hey,
man,
listen, we spoke about that the other day about this recession, man. It ain't looking good right now, man.
nah, man. And you know what happens when people like you, your major, they kick us out, man, out of the company. We're loose fat. You know, we're loose fat. You can lose us. You know, oh,
Uh,
we'll get another engineer in. It's fine. You know what I mean? This is
hey,
what happens.
hey, listen, maybe Bill, I should have probably double majored. I should have probably did business and engineering or
Oh my
something,
goodness.
man, or CS.
No,
But
you're already scary, man.
nah, man, chill out, man, chill out. But Elijah, I did want to go back to you real quick. Okay, so you spoke to us about your background. You spoke to us about your journey to Stanford, as well as why you chose computer science and all of these great stuff that comes with it. But the big question that I've been wanting to ask you, man, as you know me, I'm a business guy. I wanna know more about the money side of things. In 2019, right? You graduated, from our high school with a full ride to Stanford or any university that you wanted in the United States. Listen, Bill, I think I told you my story, man. I graduated with $0, bro. $0. And I had zero full ride offers. So first of all, that's been something that I really admired about you from the start, Alaji. But can you please talk to us about how you got a full ride scholarship to any university and by Mr. Bill Gates himself? Please talk to us about that.
Yes, of course, of course. Bill Gates definitely pulled through. I'm not gonna lie.
Look, man, listen, man. Hey, write his number, man, cause I gotta talk to him, man.
Yeah, but okay, so going back to just like my high school journey and like the way that I thought about like the whole application process in colleges and whatnot, I knew for a fact that I didn't want my parents to pay for college. That wasn't even like an option for me. Like I didn't even want to ask them. Even
Mm,
though I know that my parents, my dad, they would have 100% supported me in any way, especially given the fact that they know how much I cared about my education and they were aware of like my goals in life and whatnot, and they were willing to support me in any capacity. I just didn't that burden them. So I told myself the only way that I could do that is by making sure that I apply to as many scholarships that as I can possibly can, and to also look into financial aid and making that as an important part of like my college decision process.
mm,
And so one of the things that I feel like is very neglected when people are applying for scholarships and whatnot, and I feel like this is something that told even Abubakar when he was a senior in high school, is the fact that people seem to always forget about like the small checks.
mm,
In my opinion, I feel like those are the best because those go straight into your pocket, whereas like the bigger dollar scholarships, they tend to just send that to the university.
mm,
So there was like probably like a time period of like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. I was just applying to like several like smaller Czech scholarships in my local community, others in within the US and whatnot. And that accumulated to like I forgot how much, if it was like probably a good 30K or 40K worth of scholarship that was like given to me personally. And then as for like Gates, obviously I heard about it from people, friends within my year who were also interested in applying for the scholarship. And I was quite familiar with it also in the past because I'm aware of like another Fulani person who is in my community that was a Gates Millennium Scholar. And plus, I think 3 years before I graduated, we had a Gates Millennium Scholar at Thurl. She was the first ever to be a Gates Scholar.
mm,
And so just hearing about their experiences and how, I guess, stress relieving it was for them just getting that and securing that scholarship and just having that being able to fund their entire education, I thought like I got to put my best foot forward and try to like achieve this.
mm,
And so with the application, I kind of like approached it similarly to like how I did my college applications. I made sure to just kind of like explain myself in a way that was very unique and different.
mm,
Um, and for example, like without necessarily going into the details, but I think I mentioned this to Abubakar once, how my common application, I connected it with my interest of like what I want to accomplish in life and what I want to do and what I'm hoping to use my major for. But I use an extended metaphor of Fortnite to apply that to my life. Because I think at that time, Fortnite was like a big thing. Me and my brother, we would constantly play it together. And I feel like that was like I wouldn't say like the most meaningful thing in my life, but that was like the thing that I would just go to just seek, I guess, enjoyment. Just
right.
chilling with my brother, playing Fortnite, trying to get a victory royale or whatever. And so I just said, wouldn't it be funny to just kind of use Fortnite as a way to just describe my life and the things that I'm interested in, which ended up working out. And I did something similar to my Gates essay as well.
Mm,
Like for instance, one of the prompts was just like me talking about my background, and the communities that I belong to. And then I decided to just use a boarding pass as an extended metaphor. For context, even though I was born in New York, I kind of lived and went to school in different places. So I went to school in New York. I went to school in Guinea Conakry. I went to school in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada before settling here in Atlanta. And so I thought that that was very unique to me. Not to say that other students don't go to school in other places, but I just feel like that is not the most common thing. And so I said that that might be something interesting for me to express in my applications. And so I just kind of like talked about like having a boarding pass and then just each boarding pass representing each location that I've lived in. And then
mm,
just kind of like um including or I guess exploring a facet of like my culture and my heritage and whatnot
mm,
Example, when I talked about boarding pass one, which was me living in Guinea, I talked about my culture and being Fulani. And
Mhm,
then when I talked about boarding pass two, me living in Canada, I
mm,
talked about how that kind of connected me more closer to Allah and how that kind of like showed me the beauty in Islam.
mm,
And then when I talked about boarding pass three, which is living in Atlanta, I talked about me being kind of more aware of my blackness because I
mm,
feel like race wasn't a big thing that I talked about growing up. And it wasn't something that I was like very much aware of, like in terms of just like racism and discrimination, even though, yes, I know it was an obvious thing. I feel like I didn't experience it until I came to Atlanta. And so I thought that was like a very unique and interesting way for
Mm.
me to just kind of like talk about that.
mm,
And so I just say this to say, I just try to be unique and showing different parts of myself in a way that was kind of like indirect and showing my creativity rather than saying, I'm Fulani, I'm Muslim, I am Black. I just used a creative and unique way, showcasing my livelihood and my upbringing to
mm.
demonstrate the different parts of my life and my different facets.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really interesting because that's a really genius way of, I guess,
Gee,
saying that, you know, instead of just stating it outright. But um, what I wanted to ask you next was that you chose to go to school in Stanford, which is very far away. As you said, I understand that you've been around the world, around North America particularly. But what made you choose a school that's at the complete opposite side of the country? I understand it's Stanford, but did you not maybe get sufficient opportunities near home, or are you okay with going out of state? Because I know, we've talked about this in a previous episode, maybe the last one or the one before, where a lot of parents, especially here in the States, I know Barry knows that they have this inclination to keep not keep, but like have their children study in the same state as they're living,
my
in-state
mom,
tuition, etc.
my mom.
In-state tuition, because of in-state tuition, they don't want to let their kids go too far away from them, etc., etc. So, what was your thought process behind applying out of state and going out of state at the end of the day?
Yeah. Funny enough though, like I'm gonna go into details into like why I chose out of state specifically. But one of the things that I talked about was like obviously like financial aid. And funny enough, for me personally, in my situation, going out of state would have been cheaper versus going to school in state.
Really?
Bro,
Wait, I never heard
that's
that before,
hey,
Bill.
Georgia Tech. I don't know if Georgia Tech's listening, man.
I know, hey, wait, Jordan,
Something
Yeah.
not right.
you guys got to
Yeah,
keep
I
up.
applied to all of like I guess the schools in like Georgia that is like well known, like such as Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Valdosta State, GS U, like a variety of schools. But what I noticed is that like I would be able to just pay less if I went out of state. And then B, I think personally for me, like I would have been able to get more opportunities in terms of just like meeting amazing people. Not to say that I wouldn't be able to get that in state as well, but I just feel like a lot of the people that goes to the school in state, from what I've experienced, come from the state of Georgia, with the exception of maybe like Georgia Tech and Emory. Whereas like I feel like at Stanford, it was like a lot of people from different parts of the world, from different parts of the geography, like in Africa, in Asia, and Australia, and Europe. And I just thought that it would be a unique opportunity in me developing my education. And then also, I feel like for me, I always lived my life taking risks. And I prefer putting myself in uncomfortable positions because I feel like that is how I can grow and learn more. And I think to me, at least, staying in Georgia would have been just too comfortable. I was like, I've never been to the West Coast ever. I've never been away from my family for that long. And I said, hey, I'm going to be going to college for 4 years. It's not like I'm staying there and moving there for the rest of my life. Why don't I do something completely different? Why don't I try going to school in a state that I've never known, that I've never visited, that I'm not quite familiar with, and just expose myself to something completely new? If I end up enjoying it, that is something that I would always remember. If I do not enjoy it, at least I've experienced something different. I've grown from it, and it's something that I could look back on saying, "Oh, okay, this was not for me." And so I just kind of saw it as an opportunity for me to try out a unique experience and something completely different. And then going back to like what you were saying about like families, yes, I would say even within my community, it's pretty common for like moms and dads wanting to get their kids to just be close home. But it goes back to what I said about my parents knowing how much I valued education and like how much I wanted to do something in life. And with that being said, I feel like if anything, they were very strong proponents for me going out of state. Because it would have been one thing if I chose to go out of state to a school that was like to a state school that was like very comparable to, for instance, Georgia State or like another school that I would be able to get the same experience in state. But it's another thing for me to go to another school that is kind of like very different. And especially for like what I want to do, computer science, it's pretty well known. And I think that wasn't something that I could get staying in Georgia.
Mm. Wow, that's actually very interesting, Viv. Like I said,
Yeah.
I never heard that before. About the cheaper education. Uh, I understand.
You're
To be fair though, from all the schools that I've applied to, all of the top schools that I've applied to had amazing financial aid. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's not specific to just Stanford.
yeah.
I
I
feel
was
like
just
top schools in general, because they have more funding, they have a larger endowment, they're able to give more money. So I think it's like reasonable to assume that it would be cheaper, you know?
Jordan actually be listening, Viv.
hey,
Hey, Viv, hey, Jordan, I'm gonna
man.
call him tomorrow, man. Hey, but not wait. So Alaji, I have another a money question. So I guess you just cleared the myth. So in a way, these Ivy League schools, these top schools, in a way, is affordable for students who normally can't afford it. So it is affordable.
1000%. 1000% it is.
Wow.
Because honestly, like I'm gonna be honest with you, while I am blessed and happy to have gotten a Gates scholarship,
Mm.
I genuinely do not need it. Like,
Wow.
because basically I got my college decisions before getting my Gates scholarship decision. And
Mm.
so when I got my scholarship to the different colleges that I was interested in,
Right.
um, all of them, I think, like of the top schools, I think the most expensive one required me to pay like $2,000 per semester. The
Wow.
most expensive one. Besides that, all of the other ones, like they didn't expect me to pay anything, not even like a dime. This is
Bill,
without Gates, by the way.
Bill, what
Without
are we doing, man? Hey, what are we doing
Bro,
here, man?
what are we doing wrong, man?
Hey, man, wrong.
Bro.
Nah, but no, that's actually okay. So that was a misconception that I myself had. I thought that these top schools. I thought it would be very expensive, but it makes sense because going back to the endowment factor, because they're much larger, because they have large endowments, they have the capabilities to give back to their students. Well, that's actually a very very interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, but to
Yeah,
clarify, it is expensive. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because like it cost about, I think, maybe 80K, 90K per academic year
Mm.
for Stanford. The average Stanford student most likely would be paying towards their cost of attendance, whether that is that amount or close to that amount. However, I, Elijah, didn't have to do that.
Right.
So I guess
right.
it's all dependent on a person's financial circumstance, if that makes sense.
God.
So
Yeah, yeah,
most people at Stanford that goes to that school, as Bill mentioned earlier, like they're very privileged. A lot of them come from affluent backgrounds. Their parents own major companies. Parents are billionaires and millionaires, so they're able to easily afford that. Whereas,
Mm.
like a small percentage or proportion of Stanford students are not able to afford that large sum of money. And
Mm.
so, to circumvent them not being able to attend a university due to cost, the
Right.
university says, hey, you're an amazing student, you're an exceptional student. We anticipate great things and many things that you could bring to the Stanford community. So let's not make finances be a barrier from you attending this university. They already have the resources, they already have like a large endowment. So they're willing to just kind of like fund the full cost of attendance for a select amount of students.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a difference between like public school versus private school. You know, they're like private
Right.
schools tend to have tend to be more, I guess, lenient in terms of giving money out versus public school. Maybe it's because of demand. I don't know, but yeah,
Right. No, yeah. No, this is very like inspiring, man. Well, so back to you, Alaji. Is it too late to get the Gates scholarship? Because Bill and I can definitely use it right now. We can definitely use it right
I finally just got my one scholarship like after ages of applying.
now. Hey,
Yeah, you
Oh,
know,
put me on.
congrats, man!
Yo, put me
I got
on,
the
bro.
out of state tuition waiver. Now I'm in state, man. So that's like
The
the
tuition
only
waiver.
scholarship they have. Yeah,
Oh,
anything else, bro, I don't qualify for. I tried, man, but yeah, finally this one. But alhamdulillah, man. Yeah,
Yeah, like I have so much respect for international students because like even some of my friends from like other schools who's like international students, they just talk to me about their college experience in the US in terms of just like access to opportunities, whether that is like financial aid and internships. And it's really tough for y'all. It's really tough. Like you guys, I feel
yeah,
like have to work even harder. Like so I really commend a lot of
yeah.
students, just doing it here.
and Vilv here, I gotta say, is the hardest worker when it comes to that, man. So I have no doubt, bro. You're gonna have an amazing opportunity lined up for you soon, bro. I'm trying to get like you,
Inshallah,
Vilv.
inshallah,
You haven't realized
inshallah.
already, man.
Shut up, man.
Hey, Elijah, bro, you don't know this guy. This guy here, bro, one of the smartest people, hardest working people I know
Okay.
of. This guy
Just
here,
for the few times that we've talked, I could definitely tell.
but this guy here,
Oh, here we go. One guy. Oh my goodness,
nah, man.
man. I'm
Trying to get like you both, actually. As a matter of fact, you guys
Nah,
are
I'm
just so
okay.
inspiring.
Bill is
No,
on another level.
nah, man.
nah,
Be
nah.
like him.
Chill out.
Hey, you and Vilv is on the same level, man.
Nah.
but but yeah, so I guess like another question, Alaji, I can ask you is okay, so kind of like talk to me. How was the college experience? What was your living conditions? I know we did like an episode like a while back, like talking about like on campus living, off campus, whether you want to live in dorms or apartment styles. What kind of living conditions were you living in the first couple of years and now?
Yeah. So just for context for people that do not know, Stanford is a closed campus, and essentially all undergraduate students are guaranteed housing all 4 years, and all undergrads end up staying for their entire 4 years. I rarely hear any undergrad like living on off campus throughout their 4 years. So I'm a senior right now, and I've been living on campus for the past 4 years. My freshman year, I stayed in an ethnic themed dorm, which is basically a cultural dorm centered around a certain community. And for me personally, I stayed in Ujima, which is an ethnic themed dorm centered around the African diaspora. Going into Stanford, I already knew that I'm going to a PWI and I'm going to be a minority. Like, I'm going to be like a very small percentage of a black person like on campus. I think the stats is like probably like 6%, 7% black. And so I told myself that I wanted to be surrounded by the black community, which is why I chose to live in Ujima my freshman year. It was the best experience I've ever done. I've met amazing people. A lot of my friends that I've met in Ujima, we're friends to this day. I feel like the community was very strong and very vibrant, and we've done amazing activities. I traveled to LA with my dorm, which I find to be very amazing. It was just very cool. Sophomore year, I that was COVID. Unfortunately, spring semester, my freshman year, we got sent home, so I was in Atlanta all of my sophomore year. Junior year, I stayed in an apartment style living, which was like a new residential building built on campus called VG. It was really nice. I had a room, a stove, like a kitchen area, a living space. I would say living in apartment style living is was vastly different from like my freshman dorm, primarily because I feel like there's a lesser sense of community. Granted, I already knew that going in that that is how it's going to be like, and I was okay with that, primarily because I've already like made my group of friends freshman year, somewhat sophomore year. And so while I wasn't opposed to making new friends, I guess I wasn't in need of like finding new community because I already like knew the people that I was very close with and cool with and whatnot. So I said I just personally want my own space. And then plus it was a nice apartment, nice building, new appliances. I was like, why not?
Mm,
And then right now, senior year, I'm living in that same residential building, but now I'm in RA.
mm,
So I am living. Last year, I was living with one of my close friends. We shared the apartment, but this year, because I'm in RA, I got the opportunity to just kind of like get an apartment to myself. So I have a studio to myself. I'm rarely in the apartment, honestly. Like for the most part, I'm always out and about, busy doing things, whether that is classes, PSETs, hanging out or chilling with friends. Um, yeah, but I would say for the most part, the residential community at Stanford is like what you make of it.
mm,
If you are the type of person who's very much interested in like the party life and whatnot, there's this place called the Row where like a lot of parties happen like every week. And that is like
mm,
the best place to live if you want to be in the midst of like the whole Stanford party life scene. Um, if you are interested in like seeking community, especially with people that are in a similar position to you as you, freshman year, there's like the freshman dorms, which I feel like is the case for like a lot of different universities across the U.S.
mm,
And if you're seeking, I guess, more of a like neutral community where like there's people from different years, and in a way you could seek some mentorship in that living situation. There's 4 class dorms where like there's freshmen all the way up to seniors, which was nice. And then also there are different residential area based off various themes, such as like what I said, like the Black House. There's like one centered around like the Latinx community, the Asian community, and there's also like other things such as people that are like more open and liberal, like open-minded and liberal thinking and like free-spirited. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to just find the right residential community for you.
mm.
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting. Again, thank you for the insight. I was just gonna ask, is that an iced out watch, by the way?
Hey,
Yeah,
Bill, I told
I
you, Bill.
saw that. I
I
saw
told
the
you, Bill.
jewels there, man.
I told you, man.
No,
I'm
no,
trying to get like this guy here, man.
This
no,
is
this guy's
nothing, man. This
balling.
is nothing.
Hey, this guy is balling, man. Hey, man, we got to get like him.
No,
That's like
no.
10K right there. No, but no. The we're approaching the end of this segment here, and one of the final things I wanted to ask you, I guess, is that um, you mentioned about all the classes and stuff and everything like life on campus and everything like that. Like, what are your goals after graduating from Stanford? You talked about the reputable alumni from Stanford. You do you want to get into a job? Have you done internships? Like, or do you want to do your own thing and kind of become an entrepreneur? Um, have you tried doing any entrepreneurial ventures or anything like that? Yeah, just if you're open to sharing something.
Yeah, of course. So for me, the way that I approached my time being at Stanford was to not limit myself to one thing and to just kind of like use it as an opportunity to explore. So then I told myself my freshman year that for every summer, I'm going to do something completely different, which I have been able to do thus far. And the reason why I decided to do that was to just kind of like get a better understanding of like what field or industry I would want to go into post Stanford. And so, freshman year, I worked as a software engineer at JP Morgan. Realized that SWE wasn't for me. It's a great way to make bread, yes,
Yeah.
but I personally didn't enjoy my time just coding and then just kind of like, I feel like 80% of my time was just coding, 20% of my time was just going to meetings, which isn't how I envisioned my future to be like. And so the following summer, sophomore summer, I ended up like trying consulting. So I interned at McKinsey. And that was also a really nice and cool experience as well. But it made me realize that consulting also might not necessarily be for me. But the thing that I guess that drew me to consulting was the fact that I feel like it's a very interdisciplinary field. I feel like regardless of like your major, there's always room for you to succeed within that field, and plus you get to leverage different parts of, like, I guess, your skill sets. And then plus I think the skills that you learn being a consultant is applicable to a variety of other job opportunities post consulting, such as like if you want to go into private equity, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to do go into research, if you want, whatever you want to do. I feel like a great thing to know. But junior summer, I was like, I wanted to just try out something different. And for context, I've been doing a lot of entrepreneurship things on campus at Stanford, startups and like yes, the startup scene is very like very strong, and so I try to like assimilate myself into that startup ecosystem. And so one of the things that also got me interested and like one of the things that I got interested in after just kind of being immersed into the startup ecosystem was like VC, primarily because um, I've done a lot of research into VC and the startup ecosystem in like Silicon Valley, and the fact of the matter is that it is disproportionately white. There's barely any black founders or like any founders from like marginalized backgrounds, and so I was hoping to just kind of like get a better understanding of like the VC world and how it is like, but in a different setting. And so I ended up interning at a VC firm in Africa, which was a very unique and great opportunity. And the opportunity was shared with me through one of my mentors at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We were just talking one day. We had a conversation. I was explaining to him about the different things that I was interested in, and then he told me about like one of his connects in Senegal, and then he connected me with the partner at the VC firm, and then we just had one conversation, and I just ended up deciding to just go with them, which was nice. And I guess going to your question about what is next, I genuinely like do not know. I would say that like trying out these different fields, it made me realize that like I'm yes, while money is definitely important, like obviously I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be like, living in an uncomfortable situation. But at the same time, I definitely want to do something that I'm like truly interested and passionate about. Um, for now, I am like I signed my offer with McKinsey, so I'm probably going to be doing consulting. However, I'm also considering maybe going into product management, primarily because I feel like, especially being a CS student and having done other like internships in other backgrounds such as like finance and consulting and VC and whatnot. I feel like product management is kind of like a culmination of like all my skills, and it's a great way for me to just leverage all the things that I have learned in past experiences. Um, so yeah, I think I would say that maybe I might go into product management in the future. In terms of like long term goal, I genuinely do not know what I'm doing. But what I do know is that ultimately I want to give back to the communities that I belong to, and I want to leverage technology as a vessel to just provide more opportunities for people within underrepresented communities. Whether that is through my own personal venture, whether that is through joining a friend's venture, or even joining an established company, I don't know. But I guess we'll see what the future like beholds.
Wow,
Wow,
man.
that, that's very powerful right there, bro. I don't know about you, man, but that's very powerful right there, man.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. From growing up in New York, Alaji Berry, to now being a superstar in the in the tech community in the Atlanta and California community. Much,
Next big venture capitalist, man.
yeah, man, and traveling all the way to Africa doing an internship. Shoot, you're an international student trying to find an internship here. This man is going abroad, man. This man is going abroad. No,
Taking
that's
all our jobs, man. These Americans.
hey, hey, because
Like I said, I don't know. I don't know if it's bullish of me or whatnot, but I just tend to be the type of person to just take risks.
Hey, bro,
I
No, I
try to
respect
not
that. Yeah.
I like
I
to be
really
in uncomfortable situations,
I
and
really,
just
I really respect that, bro. And that trait of yours right there, bro, is gonna take you really far, bro. Like if you're comfortable with
Absolutely. Yeah.
taking risks, bro, that's gonna take you far, man. I'm really proud of you to this day. And I know you don't like when I say it, but genuinely know that I do look up to you, bro. I'm really trying to get like you, bro. I wish I can get to your level and do the kind of things that you're doing. And I have to agree with you here. I actually share some of the same goals as you. In the near future, I also do want to give back to the community. So hey, who knows? Maybe we got to partner up on on that, man. We got to get back to our people, man, and we got to tag Vilv along with us too, man.
yeah.
but but nah, for real, man. I really, I really enjoyed this episode today, and I was writing down on my notes here something really important that stood out to me, and maybe our viewers could relate to, because right now it is college application season. Some colleges applications are still open. What stood out to me was your college applications and your scholarship applications. You did a very genius technique, which was to like be unique and try to go with like a metaphor, right? And it looks like it worked out for you. So for all the viewers that are watching, be unique in your applications and your essays, and try to be a little bit different by incorporating some sort of like a metaphor to see if that could like elevate your writing. But other than that, man, I really enjoyed having you today, Alaji. Thank you so much for joining us. Vil, do you want to say?
Can I share something on the topic of just kind of like college applications, like the viewers are currently maybe applying for
Yeah,
college?
sure, sure, sure.
Yeah. No. Yeah,
First,
absolutely.
I do want to preface though, like even though like the whole extended metaphor worked for me, that doesn't mean that it might work for you. So do whatever is like most natural to you, because like people write differently. They have different writing abilities, and like the way that they write, their styles might be completely like different. So I would suggest doing what's most natural to you. But another thing too, and I feel like this is common to like a lot of my friends that I've spoken to that gotten into like Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and whatnot, and other top schools, is that they did not try to be well rounded. Because I feel like, I don't know, from what I've heard in the past, well-rounded is something that is always pushed for, but rather after talking to people, colleges want to build a well-rounded class. However, as a student,
Yeah.
I feel like it is better if you are strong in one domain. Because personally, in my applications and even in my friends' respective applications, we spoke focused on like one thing that we were interested in and like very good at, and we build a narrative around that. And so when I say narrative, basically when someone looks at your application, looking at your classes that you have taken, looking at the major that you're applying for, looking at like maybe your recommendations in your essay, it should tell one cohesive story, if that makes sense, rather than you saying, "Oh, I did this, I did research and in some hospital, whatnot, but then I also worked at a law firm, but then also I organized a hackathon." It would be better if you just focused in one domain and just kind of like be stronger within that angle, and then just try to convey a message to just kind of encapsulate how you are very unique, how you are a sort of prodigy in that field, and how you can bring a unique perspective to that institution. And that might not work for everyone, but I feel like for me, at least personally, it has brought me so far. And it has helped me in terms of just like college applications and my scholarships. And I feel like even talking to friends and about their college experiences, that is something that they also have said that they've done. So I think just building a narrative on one thing versus like being a well-rounded student would be an advantage.
Yeah, well, that's good insight into. I would agree. Agree with that as well. I think when I was starting to apply, I made that simple mistake at the very first applications that I kind of caught on because somebody told me, I asked somebody to review my Common App, and they were like, you maybe you don't need 10 activities. You know what I mean? Maybe you should like focus on like six good ones or whatever. So Yeah, that's something I would personally attest to as well. Yeah, so Barry, if you wanna end off the podcast today episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vilv. Again, thank you so much, Alaji, for joining us. You know, at the number one college podcast in the world. Thank you so much to the viewers, as always,
Of
you all.
course. Thank you for
Yeah, thank
having me.
you. Yeah, no, for sure, man. As always, to all the viewers that are tuning in today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like this video if you loved it. Leave us a comment in in the comment section, and as always, follow us on our social media platforms. And again, if you all would like to be featured today, like how Alaji Berry was featured, please email us at our email berryandviv@gmail.com, and we would love to highlight you and your story. But for now, we will see you in the next one. Barry and Bill signing out.
All right, peace.